Today we will be discussing on how to get good at LEGO battles in online PvP matches. This guide is very simple and will only touch on the surface level of the game's playstyles and metas. If you want to know about the best units, you should check out the tier lists that I've posted recently. Now, the two maps that we will be playing on are Alpha Sector and Black Seas, which are two of the more competitive maps in the game. Alright, the very first thing you should do is build a farm right off the bat when a match starts, and then build 3 builders. I will be going slower for players to follow along, but just know that speed is key in matches. And I am going up against a basic second player, so we do not have to worry about the enemy rushing us. Now, the second building you should build is either a plantation or a lumber shack, or a harvester is what we usually call it. I will build a harvester, and the best thing you should ever do when building a harvester is build it closer to trees looking down. Because if you put the trees above the harvester, the builders are going to have to run around the harvester every time. Now, after the builder is usually done with the first farm, build the second farm. And the 2 builders that you just built will go over to harvest the trees. This builder right here we will also use to make a farm. Always just keep making farms as you go along until you get at least 4 of them. Usually it just helps you make sure you have all your units so you don't have to worry about forgetting to build this. Next up, build a barracks, and always have your hero help. It's 50% faster, and each individual builder helping is another 25%. So that's basically 50, 25, 25. So that's a 100% increase in build time. Now that we have 4 farms and a barracks, we can build a special factory. Usually it's best to rush this as fast as you can, and I like to build early ballistas since they cost the cheapest and build the fastest. However, players may opt to go for catapults instead. This is because catapults are better at countering groups of units. So we'll be building catapults since we have a lot of money right now. Have at least 3 builders help. And if you're not doing anything, if you're just sitting around, just build more builders. Usually I like to build at least 8 or have an 8 cap when I start building 3 of them. This way I know I'm going to be getting enough money. And if you see builders just sitting around, just tell them to go to trees. This always helps. And maybe if you feel like you're going to get enough money, have them help build more ships. I rarely build assault ships early on. This is because they cost a lot and take a very long time to build compared to ballistas if you just want high DPS. So we have these builders help, and looks like we have money. And while they're building, you might as well start building melee units and range units. I don't start building mounted units until later on, but we will be building mounted units for the next bit. I only build at least maybe 3 or 4 melee and ranged units, but this mount unit we'll be using for just a little bit. And then while you're at it, after your first melee unit is there and you feel confident about your base, send a melee or ranged unit out for gold bricks. If you know where the next brick is, like on Alpha Sector, the one right here, try to collect it as early as possible because your enemy over here may run over to collect it before you. So make sure you collect this gold brick as fast as you can, especially on this map, which is considered to be one of the more competitive maps. Alright, so now that we have our general army for today, usually ballistas are outclassed by the tier 3 specials. However, I usually build them very early on for help. We will be retiring this, but assume that ballista got destroyed somehow. And this is when I will start going to assault ships. On this map, usually it's better to rush more catapults and ballistas faster. Unless your enemy is destroyed, it's okay to start building assault ships afterwards. Alright, now that we have our best 9 group of units, hold down the E key in online matches. You'll hear that sound if you hold it down. That means you have this group basically hotkeyed. So now that we don't have them selected, if you just tap E, you'll have all those units selected. This is very useful for microing other teams. So for example, if you want to use these units as scouts, not the builder, we'll just have them go build a tower or something. But say you want to just use these units as scouts, if you just tap E, you'll have them go behind. And a good strategy is to move units ahead, press E, use defense and offense boost. If you know your enemy's coming towards you, like so, it's best to know that your units should be buffed. While they're getting taken out, buff your units. You should always buff them before the match starts. And you should always prep your spells, such as artillery with Governor. However, if you're using a hero with Earthquake, then you should keep the spell tab open. However, if a unit, like one of your cavalry, are destroyed, the gold bar will deselect. So be sure to take note and use your spells earlier than your opponent. If you have something like the Alien Commander with ESP, definitely use it before your enemy approaches. That way you can counter them. Now that we don't have any units right now, we might as well just stack up on cavalry. We have plenty of money to do so, and our builders are not doing anything, so have them help. Always have your units help build additional units. Your builders are extremely valuable for this. It makes the production rate go insanely quick. And compare this build time to just a melee unit. See, we got 6 cavalry out extremely quick. Now that you have your group, buff them, and then, do the thing. Move them ahead, press E, move. Select them, prep your spells. Oh, look at that. It deselected. Usually it's best to take out the hero and continuously use Defense Boost. Defense Boost is your most valuable spell in the game. This was this was not a clean attack. As you can tell, we lost a special and 2 cavalry units. Now that we lost some specials, a good combination of units is usually 2 assault ships, 2 catapults. However, the combination of specials really comes down to your preference. If you want to focus more on actual DPS and targeting a unit, your assault ships are your stronger units. While if you want to take out a group faster, catapults are better. And usually if you focus all in on assault ships, you'll be able to deal out damage enough to take out one single unit fast enough, but they will also die out faster if your opponent focuses more on catapults. So it's best to have a good combination of these 4 units. For your mounts, just pick all mounts, especially nearing the endgame areas. The late stage of the games are mostly just mount focused. Unless you just lost a bunch of mounts and you know your opponent's coming after you, you should start building more troopers and islanders or ninjas, because ninjas actually build faster than all the other ranged units. It's similar to melee unit build times, but melee units do build like maybe a second faster than ninjas, but it's not that noticeable when you can just do this. Boom. And it's insanely fast. Look how fast that is. Then, boom. Yeah. See, by the time you get 3 of them out with this many builders, it's already done. Now then, for a better sense of offense, I will come back. Now then, if you all remember, hold E. You'll hear that sound, let go, and you'll hear that click sound. So, you can have your early units move. You press E, and you can move them as well. So, it's a good practice to just like figure out how best to use scouts. If you have speed boost, you can also speed boost these guys right up here. Your scout group. Well, you have your main power group back here. But we don't have speed boost with Governor, but you might as well buff your units to scout for you, and then you press E, move as well. Because our scout group lost, but we do know our enemy is sitting there patrolling, we can buff and then prep our artillery. Now, if we wait for our enemy to approach, it might go stale. So, just use our buffs again. Move, prep artillery, and use it. And then it's okay to not target a unit right away, but because the king is right there, you just target the king and kick him out faster. Now, for this, we only lost 1 special, which is very good. Governor had 139 health left, which is why he's top tier. His health is really strong for this type of hero, but most heroes are viable. Now, when this happens, when you destroyed all your enemy specials, it's okay to rush in to your opponent. However, because your hero has low health, it's a good strategy to send them back to your base in order for them to heal. Well, you send your other specials out to take them down. They may have some units being built right away. So it's best to take out your special factory if you see something being built. That way you can prevent them from building any stronger units. Same for the castle, because you never know if your hero is going to come out. Black Seas is one of the levels where players do struggle at, especially early on when players are just starting out matches. This is going to be one of those counterpick maps that's really hard to actually get good on. The default spawns is this one for player 1 and this one for player 2. We do not have random starts on because of the unfairness and uneven layouts of random starts. The 2 middle spawns are actually the strongest to defend on, while your main spawn has a good amount of trees, but not a lot for defense. Boats are also extremely viable on this map too. This is one of the few maps where you can actually use boats and maybe win. And because cruisers are banned, you can actually use battleships more often. Now for your team, on maps like this, it actually does matter a lot more. For your tier 3s, it's between assault ships and flagships. More often than not, players tend to opt to flagships on this map because they have an extremely high range, the same range as an assault ship. They have extremely high splash damage, which is more than a cruise rod, mind you. However, they are slow, and they cannot go onto land. Assault ships might actually be more useful for collecting gold bricks. However, if you want to go for gold bricks, pick the transport ship, as it has extremely fast speed, very cheap, and builds extremely quickly. Your hero choice also does matter a lot here. A lot of players will actually opt for Sheriff, who has EMP. He's the only hero that isn't banned with EMP. This is because he doesn't have defense boost. Unlike heroes like Biff and Gemma, who are banned due to their over-centralizing playstyles and they're just unfun nature to fight against. Hotwire heroes such as Agent Chase and Space Criminal Leader are also banned. So we will be using Sheriff for good defense. Now, on maps like this, your building locations are extremely important. You should never build your farm up here. Do not build your farm up here. Build them closer to the edges of your base so that they don't get sniped out by barracudas. Build 3 builders, have your hero help build a farm, and send them to the harvest, and maybe build a harvester farther down south. Sometimes it's okay to like move your units, but be sure to be quick about this, because the more time you just waste moving around, the more time your opponent has to set up. So continue to build farms. Maybe once you have 2 farms built, you can build the barracks for early defense. And because we built ninjas, we might as well start building them for ranged defense. Once that's built, build more farms. And maybe have this guy help. Build 3 more builders at this point. And because this guy's not doing anything, build a special factory. Now, your choice between specials may depend, but because we picked siege towers on this map, we'll be building this and focusing our whole defense on siege towers. With these 3 additional builders, we might as well start building more. And we might as well start building more ninjas just for the heck of it. Now that you have enough, always build the unit and then help. Build 1 unit, help, and then we're also building a transport for the gold brick collections. Continue to queue up units and get money as we go on. Now that we have a transport, we can just send them up north, maybe collect the gold bricks up here. And remember, do not waste your time running around for gold bricks, so just send them like down here and then keep focusing on your defense. Because we forgot to build a farm, this may cost us actually. Notice that we only built 3 farms. This may have cost us the match. So remember, build farms. Do not neglect these. They're extremely important units. And while you're at it, we have plenty of money because we aren't going as fast as we can because we aren't playing against a real opponent right now. And with our transport, just continue to micro the transport, maybe use it for scouting, and start building your special factory down here. Remember to focus all of your defense. And on this map, towers may be actually more important, but keep them at bay. And we might as well start building more mount units at this point. Remember, ninjas are actually probably paired very badly with the sheriff due to his inability to defense boost them. Ninjas are actually fairly strong on their own, but they do lose out to splash damage, which is what our opponent will most likely be using. But ninjas are good for just defending early on. Now, next time I play this map, and I pick Sheriff as my main hero, it's probably a better idea to pick archers alongside Sheriff, due to his inability to defense boost them, because ninjas have the lowest health of ranged units. Now that our transport has moved around and collected some bricks, we might as well just retire him and focus on maybe battleships early on. However, because time's passed, we do have our siege towers for defense and more mount units. It's also a good idea to actually start bridging out and working down this way, just so you know your opponent is coming towards you. Maybe start building a tower, and if your opponent has units around here already, it might be a good idea to just retire the bridge so they don't cross over. Now, our battleships are fairly strong, but they do lose out to flagships. So remember, flagships are your strongest specials in the game, but they are only viable on a very small select few of maps. Now for that, I will be returning back. It is also a good idea to have a better build spot, because only 3 units can help. It might be better to build your shipyard closer to a corner to where you can have more units help build it faster. This is one of the biggest downsides for ships, is that it doesn't allow you to have all your units surround it on all sides. But now that we have 2 units, we might as well use our battleship to maybe scout around. Now, see this mountain right here? This usually affects how the opponent does things. But as we notice, our enemies may have more boats, which means they could rush you very quickly. Now, because this happens, it might be a good idea to not build flagships right away. Now, because our flagship is weak, the assault ship hasn't been able to do much. But your battleships can actually outrange our ninjas. But because we picked Sheriff, we can EMP this unit. EMP is one of the strongest spells on this map, and may cause matches to be a little bit more lengthy, and would cause them to stall on this map. But again, Sheriff's main weakness is no defense boost, which means on offense, he's not that strong. Now, other strategies on this map may include building more on this side, slowly moving your base to this part. However, if your enemy uses assault ships on this map for harassment, they may start taking over this island and this island. If your opponent has both islands taken over, this means their units are more spread out, but they may be better on offense with all the resources taking over. Because these trees are extremely strong, if you're able to get all these trees out and build a castle right here, it's like one of the best spots to defend your castle. But that does not mean it's an instant win. It's also a good idea to just build a bridge extremely early on this map. This lets you know that boats are coming your direction. This also means that your opponent will have to move the boat closer. This is because the projectile that the boats shoot hits the mountain area up here. So they can't just sit right here and try to shoot it, because the projectile will hit this mountain. So they will actually have to run up and get closer to the mountainside. Since we've used mostly siege towers, this actually helps for ground defense, but siege towers are weaker than assault ships, which is why we have more units to back them up. Remember that assault ships do have a higher DPS than assault ships. Remember that siege towers do have a lower DPS than assault ships and lower health. Now for boats, if you have this built, now you can't attack, but this may be a good way for you to defend and maybe attack your opponent. But your opponent will most likely build up here. And it's also a good idea to always keep in check for this mine spot and maybe other units. Remember that 4 flagships are extremely strong on this map, but they do take a long time to build out, meaning that your opponent can actually rush assault ships faster than flagships. This is because they can surround their builders around their jetty / special factory. Also, remember the gold brick back here, because sometimes your opponent may just send an assault ship to pick that up. So always remember the gold brick down here, and then the other end, the enemy may have the gold brick somewhere up north. Now, it may also be a good idea on this map to build 2 shipyards, actually. This helps actually produce units faster and boats. Now, if you have a lot of build space, start building your farms closer to the back. once you have trees taken out. We can retire the siege tower since we don't need it right now. And maybe we could build a barracks right here too. We have some units to defend, so if they send like one assault ship, we could probably take them out with this group. But if they send more than maybe two, we might start losing the encounter. Now, if you know your opponent isn't focused on boats, if you've seen what units your opponent is using, it might be okay to retire this, since if they just use clippers to rush you early on, the bridge may actually be also very important to build and then build in order for a good way to prevent clipper rushing right away. Now that we have our flagships built, we can retire this bridge as it helps with defense. Another way to defend your bridge is to have a boat just sit here. Your opponent cannot build bridges because the boat's right there, and if you build a shipyard right where the bridge is going to be built, your opponent cannot build any bridges. So, say your opponent comes along and move our flagships out of the way. They try to build a bridge, they can't because we have a building in the way. So this is also a way to prevent your opponent from rushing on the ground. But this also does mean you're going to be cornered, and your only source of money will be this. Which means that Heroes of Trees may be better for longer matches, which is another downside Sheriff does have. However, this map does usually end quickly, so we can probably send a couple flagships to our enemy, and we'll see you on the other side. Now, since we're only rushing with 3 flagships, we may lose this encounter. However, the strength of the flagship should not be underestimated, since they have extremely long range. If we just stand ground right here, we can just keep sniping out archers. Oh, since they had a battleship, they took us out. Now that we don't have many specials, our opponent may be rushing right now. See that? Now, it may be a good idea to start sending siege towers out. Oh, use EMP. Since our opponent accidentally got there, we can punish their movements with EMP. And that should be mostly good. Now, this map still has lots of strategies to discover, and it may be very open. This is one of my favorite maps to play on because of how open-ended your offense and defense can be. Just remember that your opponent is probably not going to rush clippers after the first attack if you tend on using mostly siege towers. Siege towers is a good defense tactic, but they will soon start falling off if you focus mainly on boats. If you focus all in on boats, you may start to struggle on offense, especially if your opponent chooses Sheriff. Remember that the Discord link to join and play online matches is in the description. I also have a second channel now, where I will be occasionally uploading full game matches. And shout out to Alpha47 and Ethan JWG, who have also made some LEGO Battles content, so please check them out alongside that second channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.